um, about snow, garden related. So you should look at those, comment, tell me what you think. So are we live? Great. Hey, so I am so happy that you all are tuned in here at Waters Garden Center. I've been doing this. I woke up this morning or last night's class. I thought 63 years. We've been in business 63 years. And I've been here with the company for over half of that. That's kind of frightening going, oh my gosh, that's a long time. So I started back in 1992. That's 33 years ago. And we've been doing this every year since. This is kind of our kind of first event of the year. And so my name's Ken Lane. I'm the owner of the Garden Center. And so I'm the second generation owner. How does Ken Lane come to own Waters Garden Center? Well, Harold Waters started it. It's a family business. It's been in the family, welcome, for all these generations, all these decades. And Harold started this back in 1962. There were no garden centers in northern Arizona. We're the very first. There were some on Baseline down in Phoenix, but none were up here. And he was up here. He wanted to live up here. And he started connecting with home builders. And what do you need with a home build? You need the landscape to look pretty good. And there was no place to go. They had to go to Phoenix and get Phoenix material, bring it up here. So he started going over to California with a trailer and a truck, picking up plant material and bringing it back just for them. And then he had a landscape company, started doing that. And then it just naturally built into a garden center. Our very first garden center was on Miller Valley Road. Back in the 60s, he was only there for a couple of years and then moved to Gail Gardner Street, which is across from the bowling alley off of Gurley Street. So across the bowling alley, there's a whole bunch of office buildings there. That used to be the garden center. It used to be flat, of course, no office buildings. They knocked down all the greenhouses and then built that. We moved here. This is our brand new garden center. We built this in 1983. And so we never dreamed we'd use all the land. Now I wish I had a couple more acres because we're getting cramped a little bit, but it forces us to be more efficient, forces us to be a better business. And so I'm second generation. Harold had 4 daughters. I married Lisa, the youngest, prettiest. And then Mackenzie, wave in the back, Mackenzie, is my youngest daughter. So we had 4 kids. And they were all raised in the business. And so they've learned very strong work ethics and that kind of stuff. So Mackenzie is now training. She's the general manager. She does all the hiring, firing, ordering. She kind of runs the place. I couldn't run it without her. So she's doing a great job. So she's the 3rd generation coming in. Today is a different class. Normally we take a subject, we try to open that up and go, here's how you grow lilacs, or here's how you grow, here's how you start vegetables. Here's how you get your soils ready, the fruit trees that grow here. Today, it's not that. Today, because we've invited all of our growers, they've come from all over the Southwest, and I thought I would just let them talk about their plants. You get the inside, and I said, don't just tell us how to grow that fruit tree. Tell us how you developed it. How did you create this? Where did it come from? How many acres are you growing on? Because it's a unique opportunity for you to see our growers. And our philosophy, this goes way back, is if I can't take the owners out to dinner or lunch, or I don't know your kids, we're not going to buy from you. Big corporate organizations, we don't buy from. We're after family, small, supporting family, small. It's a serious thing for us. And so we keep our entire supply chain as unique as we can. And some of them they're growing on thousands of acres, but still they're family owned. And we go and see them every year and say, hey, Chris, let's go to dinner. Let's go. Tell me about what's new, what's coming on. Hey, could you grow this for me? That kind of stuff. So that's who is here today. So why don't we start with Mike? Mike's with Schmidt, J. Frank Schmidt, the Cadillac grower of all things trees. Most growers of trees, hey Mike, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, thank you. Here, put this on for me while I tee you up here. Mike has got farms up in Oregon. That's the main farm, right? It's number 1.
It is. There's 4 farms.
4 farms. Gotcha. So he grows a lot of trees are just chucked in the ground. They grow up and they're dog-legged. They're not full. They're not groomed and taken care of. They actually take an extra 3 or 4 or 5 years to grow the perfect tree, perfect form, perfect shape, perfect crown. Super critical if you've got a fast grower like shade trees. Even more critical if you're growing fruit trees, because you're going to put on 100 pounds of apples or peaches. That structure needs to be set up so it will hold all that weight. Otherwise, it'll just break, it'll fall over, it'll have issues. So we go to the farm every year. You just celebrated 75 years a couple of years ago. How many years has the company been in business?
79 years.
79 years. I'm just going to pass it. Just give it up for Mike Neenan, J. Frank Schmidt. He's our premier shade tree. If it's a deciduous tree, he's our guy. And some evergreens. Anyway,
Yeah.
Go for it. It's all you.
Yeah. So I'm the sales rep for Ken and Mackenzie. And I've been working for J. Frank Schmidt for 5 years.
Okay.
And we are based out of Northern Oregon, Boring, Oregon, which is about half an hour east of Portland.
Yep.
And we do have 4 farms with thousands of acres. The company has been in business for 79 years, and we are originally
a little bit. Put on this collar right there. Okay. A little bit closer. Not everyone's a loudspeaker like I am. Here, I'm going to help you out.
Okay.
Here. There you go. Now talk.
Okay. Is that better?
Does that work? Let's try it.
So we originally were known for growing bare root trees, which means that the trees are grown in the ground, and then in the fall they're dug, and then they're wrapped, and we ship them out in the springtime. But in the last 10 years, we grow more container trees, which is what Waters buys from us. And by the way, Waters has been buying from Schmidt since the beginning.
63 years, yeah, long time.
So a long time.
Long family connection, yeah.
Yeah, so we continue that relationship. And it is important. We are family owned. I mean, J. Frank Schmidt is not owned by a big corporate entity. I mean, we have family that runs the company still to this day. So it's nice to work for a family-run company.
Yeah.
So we are known for our shade trees and our flowering trees, which is a good example here.
Can I bring one over? You
on the left?
You want to talk about it? I mean, this is like the perfect tree. First blush, it's a fairly new tree.
So first
blush. See that on camera, okay?
First blush is a flowering. It's a flowering cherry tree.
There you go.
And we're known, like Ken says, we're known for the shape of our trees. We spend a lot of time and labor pruning and grooming our trees, probably more than any other company in the United States. And that's how you get such a perfect shape like this. And that's what people are looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Even though, if as a consumer, you want to look and you want to see the branching on the tree and you want to see how it looks. And this is like the perfect tree. Yeah. And you'll never see this when it leaves out or blooms out, but it's a great example when it doesn't have any leaves or flowers on it of the shape that this tree is. So
can you explain the grafts? Because that's always a question mark. You're seeing grafting tape throughout. Why, and how do you do?
So this is important because we want a strong central leader in every tree. That way that it keeps going up, straight up. And this is, you can see the tape. People see the tape and they think, oh, something's broken on the tree.
It's been wounded. Yeah,
it's not wounded. It's done on purpose. So basically what we do is we take a little branch and we bend that top branch over and we tape it to the center part, and then it keeps going up straight. So you can see right here, it's been done right here, and then again right here. So that's a branch. We cut the top out, and then we bend the branch over, and we tape it to the central leader, and then it keeps going up straight. It just forces it to grow more. So you cut the top off, and then it forces these branches to grow more down below, and then it just keeps going up.
The botany behind it is there's some growth hormones at the first foot to 18 inches of a branch. And if you cut that off, it stops growing. And so it forces all the other growth hormones to go throughout the rest of the tree. So you get a more consistent growth. Otherwise, it focuses straight on that one branch and it won't stop. It just keeps going to the moon. Here, they can get a better shape to it.
Better shape, more branches down below.
It's artistry is what it is.
It really is.
What happens if that breaks off? What am I doing?
Don't let. So the question was, what happens if the top breaks off? Don't do that. Why would you do that?
No, but we get more wind than you do.
Yeah, yeah. What you do is just train the next, take a branch and train it to go up. So it'll naturally want to it'll focus on the next branch. And so if you don't bend it up, it'll just go straight out like this. And then you get an ugly tree. We've got some tape. We'll show you how to do it. If that happens, we'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
But right now, the perfect tree, how old is this tree? How long does it take to get from seedling or cutting to this?
So when we develop a new tree, when we come out with a new tree, it's minimum of 12 years to take to come up and decide if we're going to grow this tree or not. So we have test gardens that are right there in the main office in Boring, Oregon that we've had, for 79 years. So it takes, minimum 12 years. This tree is probably about 6 years old. And the process is unbelievable how it comes from just a seedling to a tree. We do have some photographs and some posters that we showed with people when they say, well, why is this tree so expensive? Well, because it's been in the making for 12 plus years before we even accept it. And then it's going to be another 5 to 6 years before we can even grow it and sell it in any size form. So when people talk about the price of trees, it's not just a widget that comes out of a warehouse. It takes a long time to develop it.
So a tree, you really want to hand pick your trees. Don't let your landscaper, don't just go, I'll take 3 of those. You want to hand pick, because if you get an ugly tree, as it grows up, it just gets uglier. Literally, a beautiful tree, if you get the perfect tree, it just gets more voluptuous, beautiful, more shapely, it just looks better and better. What I like about their trees is they're getting genetics. They're looking for the perfect tree that doesn't get disease, grows more consistently, has a brighter color, blooms longer. There's something about it, or several things about each tree that has a unique characteristic. You can buy just any tree from Home Depot, and they'll have a blooming cherry, but they won't have first blush, which has a longer, bigger, more softer, better shape tree to it. Trees, you're only going to need 5 or 6 trees in a yard. You want each one to be perfect and grow and be glorious. And this is a beautiful blooming. We've got several different trees. There's shade trees. There's blooming trees, so crab apples, cherries, red buds, which is a native. Then you've got fruit trees, and then we have evergreen trees. So we break up the department accordingly. And so when you're shopping for trees, come ask us, I'm looking for an evergreen tree. I want to block out my neighbor's hot tub. I'm tired of looking at them in their backyard. I don't want to see them and they don't want to see me. How do I block them? We take you to the evergreen shade trees. So anyway, I think we're out of time. I got to give some more time. We can keep going. I could keep going. I want a radio interview with you before you leave, though. But let me have the microphone. J. Frank Schmidt. Give it up for Mike Neenan. Super crazy smart. If you could go to the farm, it's thousands of acres. I mean, they have planes to fly from this farm to this farm. They've got a landing strip on the farm. It's very cool. Then you get to go hand pick your trees. So we go up as a team and we hand pick which varieties we want. Well, I like the way that looks. We'll take a row of that. And that's how we're picking our trees. Bill Jones, get up here, will you? So Bill is,
hello.
What are you thinking? There's snow in the, but you
No,
just
you
like
know
that.
Route 66.
I love it.
Short,
That is
in the Long Beach area. And we were short of the
Here, Mike, let me give you, or Bill, let me give you this microphone.
Now you're gonna put it on.
I am going to put it on you. It won't be wonky. There you go.
Thank
You're
you.
a loud talker anyway.
I am.
So Bill, he's part of Fertilome. Fertilome, the reason we like Fertilome is we're part of the owners of that company. It's a co-op. So a bunch of retailers got together and said we need to have better products. And so I get a dividend check every year based on what we've done, but they create unique products for us at the retail level that work for our climate and our customers. And so then we get together at the shareholders meeting. We get to see how you're doing. It's just a bunch of retailers independent garden centers.
Yes.
It's not boxes. You'll never see his products in a box store. They're only at independent garden centers.
Our bylaws basically say that it only independent dealers that can carry our product. So if a retailer has stock or something, that means they are not independent. They are beholden to their shareholders, so we don't want them as one of our guys that's carrying it. We want this
Basic
guy.
for you, it's basically like it's just a co-op. We all got together and said, let's put this factory together, and we're going to make this stuff, and we get access to it. So that's why we like Fertilome products, because we know the quality. It's going to be a certain bar. What happens with it when inflation stuff? They start shrinking the bottles. They dilute it down. They take shortcuts to keep the price point down.
Yeah.
We're less focused on price point. We want to have it work. We want it to work every time consistently. So when I'm recommending to you, this is what's going to kill a grasshopper or a thrip or keep your roses looking beautiful, I know it's going to be. I know the backing behind that. And so anyway, that's Fertilome. It set you up. So I'm glad you trekked across. I heard the storm followed you across the desert.
I was driving
yesterday.
on the desert, and the entire storm, the windshield in front of me was blue sky, but the windshield was getting wet the whole way. And when I got to Wickenburg, I stopped at a little Ace dealer. He goes, "You know what followed you, Bill? It's right here." And so I got out to the car 20 minutes later. It was pouring rain. And I wasn't, because I didn't have my umbrella. It was in the car. And so I looked like that cat that was absolutely in the rain.
Yeah.
Now, we have two brands that they carry. We have the Fertilome and the High Yield brand. Some of our fertilizers are going to be, that's going to be the yellow and red bags. You'll see that also. You know what? I've got some stuff over there. But anyway, just remember that High Yield and Fertilome are all these brands that he's carrying because it's for the independent garden centers.
Keep going, Bill. Keep going.
And I guess, here a big item they sell is the tree and shrub drench, because for your pine trees, it's a 1-year protection. You put it down at the base of the pine tree. It's systemic. It absorbs up. It makes the sap poisonous to the rascals that want to do some damage. And they only have to do it once a year, or you only have to do it once a year, which is kind of nice that you can protect and don't have to worry about constantly going out and attacking the bugs, because your tree will be protected.
The bark beetle and the scale are rampant. It is because of the warm, mild winter.
Mm-hmm.
They're as bad as I've ever seen. You will see trees collapse, and there's no coming back. Once a pine tree crosses a line, no matter what you do, it doesn't come back. So we're really encouraging fertilize and treat them with tree and shrub drench. If you've got an evergreen in your yard, you should treat that. Just as protection, if nothing else. But we're seeing cases every day. I'll see 10 cases today, bark beetle. And I think the tree's already dead. We'll try to treat it, but you don't know until the first warm day. Once it gets to 80 degrees in April sometime, it just will drop all of its needles and it's gone, just like that. It died like a month ago. You don't find out until a warm day. So treat them, just to my friends, treat them. I also, before, if I could, I've got 3 handouts for you today. One, we're coming into lilac season. So I've got how to grow a lilac, how to nurture, how to get it to rebloom over and over for you for years. It can be kind of tricky, lilacs, but with this handout, you'll have the prettiest one in town. And then monarch butterflies, they aren't quite migrating yet, but they will be next month. So I've got the 9 flowers that will save the monarchs. So we're big into pollinators here. And so butterflies, bees, hummingbirds are all our pollinators. I'll give the top flowers they love. And then how to fertilize. Those are the 3 things. You need to fertilize this month. In fact, take advantage of the snow. I mean, just chuck the fertilizer on top of the snow. The snow will do all the work for you. It's like an opportunity like I've never seen. If you got it on right before the snow, it was even better. But if you didn't make it, this is an opportunity. So those 3 things will come to you this afternoon. As soon as I get done entertaining vendors, growers, I'll shoot you an email. Be from my desktop to yours, basically. With that, Fertilome, what else you got for us? Sorry.
My favorite item, triple action.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Great
it's
stuff.
got neem oil, which is from India. It's a good fungicide. It kills some insects. It's a good miticide.
I'll show it to folks on camera. So you like to talk with your hands anyway.
Yeah.
There you go. The triple action. Can you see that okay?
Now, that's a concentrate. this is a rarity. The ready to use has one added ingredient. It's called piperonal butoxide, which is a synergist. What that basically does is makes the pyrethrins, which is an insecticide that generally works while it's wet, but then it's gone afterwards. It makes it last longer. So in the trigger, you've got a third active ingredient. You've got the neem, you got the pyrethrins, but then you've got the synergist. So it does make a longer lasting effect.
Why
But
can't I get that in the concentrate, Bill?
you know, it
I'm gonna
is
bring
something.
that up
Yeah,
at the next meeting.
it doesn't. What it does, it doesn't. The package process, it doesn't do well to try to keep it
Really?
in a, because you know, as an example, that product is in a lot of cans of Raid and everything else, but never in a concentrate available for
Oh.
somebody to mix their own.
Okay.
It's always been that way.
But
It's
why?
a
I
carb.
want
It's
it.
a carbon compound that
Okay,
is
all
not
right.
stable, so
All
it does
right.
not work.
Okay, got it. I still want it
Of course.
because it works. That works better, longer. It
Yes.
works longer.
Yes, it
It
does.
works longer than the concentrate.
Yeah, yes, it
So,
does. And
all organic.
tragically, that is, and these are all organic. You know, the idea that pyrethrins, you know, the ground of chrysanthemum flower they discovered all those years ago was a very good insecticide
Yeah.
because they found flies landing on the chrysanthemums and just dropping dead. And by the way, that synergist was discovered because they added it to pyrethrins to knock out houseflies. And they realized that it was lasting longer than just when it was wet. Because usually when it's wet, that's the only time that pyrethrins works.
Yeah.
But when they added the synergist, all of a sudden it lasted for a longer time.
The way I use triple action, I always get a bottle before I start my vegetable gardens because it is one of the best at keeping the mildew away from my pumpkins, away from my squash. The big leafed things, for some reason, I'm forever getting, as soon as the monsoons hit, I get powdery mildew. It's just part of the process, and I know it's coming. So I just, as a preventative, I just get a bottle and I spritz my leaves once a week.
yeah.
I go out and I sip my coffee. Try not to spray it in my coffee, but it's organic. So if it
Yeah,
does,
yeah.
it tastes pretty good, actually. You're okay.
I think that explains a lot right now. He's been drinking it, okay?
It's safer for your pets. It's safer for your birds. It's just safer organic. So we're big into organics. I'm never going to
Absolutely.
sell you a toxic chemical. We only have one down there, and it's only, and I'll only sell it to you if it's needed, like grasshoppers. You just can't do. This is not going to affect a grasshopper. This is great for the smaller bugs, thrip, aphids, ciliads, some of these smaller, house flies, white flies.
Mhm.
Great for that. As soon as you get into beetles, grasshoppers, big old worms, we'll switch gears. Caterpillars we can take out real easily with organics,
Yes.
but grasshoppers not so much. So we got a pyrethrum, which is it's a safe. It's a replica of the chrysanthemum organic, but it lasts longer. So when the
Yes.
fields are crawling with grasshoppers, you can see them coming at you. They're going to eat everything. You can spray that. It'll keep them in check. So it's kind of my take. It's because I'm going to sell it to you, but who's the guy that's going to get cancer first? The guy selling it for years and
sure.
decades. I'm not doing that to myself. I'm not going to do that to your puppy dogs or your husband. Just not going to do that because he's a guy out there. Anyway, Bill, one more thing, and then I
Yes.
got to go to the
Okay.
next. So what do you got
Well,
for
you
us?
know what? When he was talking about the grasshoppers
Perfect.
and the like,
Perfect.
keep in mind when you scatter, this is a dry that you scatter around into the base of the plants, into the dirt. But if you can try to apply it when it's not a bright sunshine or to water it in, you'll have longer results.
Interesting.
Because when they flash dry, when something evaporates, especially in the heat of the summer, the synthetic pyrethroids do not last nearly as long.
Right.
And that goes back to the old days with diazinon and Durspan. All of those would last longer if you let it settle in for the night, as opposed to putting it out at 11 o'clock in the morning and having it dry almost immediately. It just doesn't
Interesting.
work as well.
Really. So the way you use this is for grasshoppers, ants, things that crawl,
Crawling, the
cutworms, things
crawling
that crawl
stuff,
across the
yes.
ground. I'm going to spread this, my hand spreader, around the
Yes,
plants.
you never
as a
use your
berry.
bare hands. You would never think to use, even though it's dry, you would never dip your hand in a liquid chemical.
Right.
Why think that a dry chemical is safe
smart.
for you to do? So even if it's just a pair of gloves or the old coffee can with the holes in the bottom to sprinkle it out there like you're doing Parmesan
We have
cheese on a
very
pizza.
fancy spreaders.
Do you?
that
Wow,
just
high
kinda
tech.
Get a good tool. It'll make your life easier. So you spread this, and it's better to do it in the evening. I did not know
Yes.
that, so I've learned some
Dusk,
that's great.
Dusk
And then
is
it
a
will
great
last
time.
longer, and the bugs will be going in
Yep.
for the evening. They wake up in the morning, and it'll get a better knockdown. and a longer lasting.
Also,
Okay.
you might see a bug walk through this. Oh, it didn't work. No, the knockdown isn't in 1 second like a pyrethrin. It is something that lasts longer. It's not going to kill immediately. That's kind of the trade-off versus the old red can of Raid. People want to see that bug do this. But if the real insecticide that's going to last for months is not what made the bug do this anyway.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So a bug can walk right through this.
Question.
Can you use that to border your house to keep against?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good
So-
perimeter treatment.
So
yes.
those folks online, we know you're there. I'm glad you tuned in. You should come see us. I know the snow is scary, but the roads aren't that bad. Come down and see us. Anyway, so the question was, can you use Turf Ranger as a barrier or as a perimeter to keep the bugs at bay? And the answer is very much yes. Great on red ants, just ants, carpenter ants. But really, we get this for cutworms, grasshoppers, that kind of stuff. So.
And lastly, it's a new formula which is better for your climate. The old formula was really good for places like Palm Springs or Lake Havasu where it's 140 degrees. But this is more of a national formula which is better for cooler climates, not just up here, but like Michigan or something that has cooler climates. This is more effective. That's why they picked a new formula in the last 2 years.
Okay, that's great. Give it up for Bill Jones. Let me
Thank
get let me get your microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
So Bill does training for us. He makes our team smarter. I'll try to get a radio interview, just get you get talent. You want to glean, he's got a lifetime of information. How do we get that information from him and out to you all? And then we're the place that kind of curates the products and goes, this is what you want for this caterpillar. So tent caterpillars, there's going to be this football-sized web in a tree. The caterpillars come out at night and strip the oak trees, strip the trees of purpley plums. It's a thing that happens every year. Well, we know exactly what organic will take that out when we see that. And so come and see us. So we're here to help you. You don't have to guess. You go up the wall of death and decay from the box store. You know, oh my gosh, what do I use? I have no idea. Well, we'll get you the right one, so we can help you with that. Who was I doing next, Ken? Who was number 3? Was that Alta Nursery? Yeah, come on up. Yeah. Alta Nursery. Yeah, come on in. That's good. Alta Nursery. How long have you been in the business? Long time. You've been our rep.
My name is Rick Williams, and I've been in the business since 79.
79. Wow.
And I was in the business when your dad, or Lisa's dad, had the other location.
Here, let me put this on for you.
Oh, okay.
Really, that long? Amazing.
Yeah,
so
I know.
the second location off of Gail Gardner, you were still coming into. When are you going to retire? You're just having too
That's
much
a good
fun,
question.
aren't you?
I'm having too much fun. It's been a great career, honestly. I mean, I've been, I started off. I've sold for several different companies. Maybe I've seen some of you around, but I've sold for Color Spot for 10 years and Heinz Nursery,
Sure.
For a number of years. But right now I'm selling for Alta, and I'm loving it because they're very innovative in the industry, and they're doing things that they're not stagnant. They're out looking for new products, to bring to the market.
They're going in the hills of California. So they're halfway between here and basically Fallbrook or San Diego, that area. So in the hillsides there. So it's a very similar climate to us. And they can grow, they can bring products on, they can get things to bloom and leaf out a little bit sooner. So we can show it off when you're looking for it, more inspirational, and you grow the best.
Yeah.
Some of the blooming shrubs are like over the top. No one grows them like you all. It's an art form. And so we're grabbing at some of the natives he's got, some of the herbs, he's got a unique mix that no one else has, and you're not going to find it anywhere else except here at Waters Garden Center.
Well, one thing I pride Alta in is that we sell to independent garden centers. You won't see any of their product in a chain store. And so we feel like the independent garden centers, they just have a handle on the market, and, they take care of the plants, and they know how to, teach and provide knowledge for you folks as well.
So now an insider tip. So this is an industry this is not garden related. This is personal or industry related. So we're noted as a place, this industry It's a place where people put their roots down. So you'll find the average tenure of anyone that's coming up here is like 20, 30, 50 years. It's a long time. They come in and they never leave the industry. Very unique. Why do you think that is? Why would someone want to come in and work at a garden center or a farm or a grower or a breeder, be part of this industry? Why would they want to do that?
It's pretty, even though it's a small industry, it really is. I mean, you know, having worked for for several growers and that, I always run into people, and everybody is typically pretty friendly. I mean, gardeners are friendly people.
Yeah, they are.
You know, and they want to share knowledge as well. And so I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, you never get bored. You're always
Never get
learning
bored.
something new.
Right.
So there's always a new plant or a new color, something coming up. Or you have a problem, you got a bug, you're trying to go, what plant won't get that bug? And you're trying to figure all these things out. You never stop getting creative. And then it's artistry, it's fragrance, it's beauty, there's a lot to it. And I think we're down to earth, is my take.
Right.
We're basically one step removed from farmers. And you got to believe in a higher cause, because all of your crops can be taken out by one snowstorm. You never know. So you're always trying to go, oh, Lord, help us get through this season.
We're not producing nuts and bolts. We are farmers. I mean, that's basically, you go and visit, you know, we have a 100-acre nursery, and a lot of other nurseries are bigger, some are smaller, but basically we're farmers, and we're, you know, we live.
So what's new for this year? What's something that we're going to have here that they've never seen that you want to show off?
So,
you got tags.
I don't have any samples here to show you today, but we do have, you're all familiar with probably Proven Winner. I mean, you know, and First Edition as well. Well, one thing that we're going to come out with this year is another brand called American Beauties.
And show them online too, so
okay,
they can see it. So American Beauties, great program. There you go.
So the thing,
go for it.
The thing about American Beauties is we specialize in a lot of native plants, and so.
Can I pass a couple of these around?
Absolutely.
Just like, do you need these back, or are you gonna?
No, you go ahead. Pass them around.
Just kind of take one, look at them, whatever, just so you can see what he's talking about.
But there's a lot of good information on there. I mean, it has all of your, you know, growing information, the specs on the plant, and what's going to happen there. But there's I think there's a value in a native plant. You know, I mean, you can go other places and, you know, find the top 20 plants in the area, but as far as natives go, they're not really out there so much. And I think it's something that is going to grow in popularity. You have to sell a native. People aren't necessarily, you know, educated as well on natives, even though it's a great item to have.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Then
absolutely.
you look at it and go, huh. So we're going to change the narrative this year. So I'm tired of pushing natives. No one knows what it is. Here's what I think people, and let me know if I'm wrong. The reason people come in, they go, I want natives. What they really want is a low care, easy maintenance. I want to go on a 3-month road trip on my RV, go visit all the grandkids, come back. My plants are still alive. That's what I want. And I want it to be beautiful. A lot of natives they make me gag. They're ugly. No one would have that in their yard, but you all grow fantastic native. They're beautiful, low care plants. So we're going to change it to low care or easy maintenance. We're going to do that. So instead of pushing natives, we're going to say it's just a low care plant.
You've probably driven by a lot of natives and you aren't even really sure what they are.
Yeah, half the nursery is natives already.
Right. I mean, as an example, if you go to Trader Joe's and you go around the back, like you're going to exit, on the right-hand side on the hill is Apache plume. And there's one of the tags is going around with that. But, you know, we even collect seed. I mean, I've been out collecting seed in the mountains and, you know, around, and we get it back to Alta Nursery and we produce them, you know, along with working with breeders as well.
So a lot of our growers, they're specializing in certain types of plants. So we had 10 acres down in Skull Valley. I've had acreage out in Chino Valley. And what I found was growing is very risky because you've got all of your crop. I mean, you got 5 acres of greenhouses filled with plants, and one disease goes in there and it just wipes it out. So during the Great Recession, dated myself a little bit too, I just closed all that down, had my head grower, got him a job with a great grower in Florida next to his mom. So he moved from Chino to Florida. And then now what I do is I contract grow. So I don't grow them myself. I go, Rick, I want you to grow these for me, and you got a guaranteed commitment. I'll take those, whether it's a tomato, a fruit tree, whatever. So it mitigated some of my risk. And now I know who grows the best natives in the Southwest. Rick at Alta. I've got access. I've got that. So it helped me get the best plants. It's spread out. So I've got farms all over the place. And I know who's growing the best geranium. I know who grows the best gardenia. I know who grows the best tomatoes or the fruit trees. I know who the best, and they're friends, and they're growing them for you. That's that's what you're finding here at Waters Garden Center, just so you know. Okay, so with that, give it up for Rick Williams. I'm going to take your microphone if I could. And then thank you very much. Again, I want a radio interview. So who was next? Was that Chris? Are you up? Chris Shipley is with Savano's Nursery out of Tucson. Yeah, bring it on up. And then put your microphone. So Chris, a personal friend. He's been supporting us for years. The yuccas, some of those deserty looking things. That's him. That's his stuff. And they are perfect. New genetics. He's got new. You got to show off this. I think I brought. Well, I'll let you do your thing here. There you go. Otherwise, I could just take over for you. Well, Chris is a great family man. They've got. Tell us about how long you've been doing this, and how many family members work at Savano's Nursery. You go to work with all those brothers and their wives, kids.
Well, we work with my two brothers, Alex and Nick Shipley. My father, who's 85 this year, Les Shipley. And my wife, Melanie Shipley, who runs our garden center. And the three brothers and my dad, we work at our farm. Been working since the middle 90s, late 90s, and growing our business, growing our garden center, and growing our farm in Tucson. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what we've been up to.
And now I can't believe you're now growing, you're shipping your plants from San Diego all the way to Louisiana and everything in between.
Right.
So like your trucks are all over the place. And they happen to come up here every once in a while too.
They do.
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking having the trucks all over the place, windstorms and tornadoes, and you never know what we're going to encounter. So, but knock on wood, everything's been great. We just keep out of those storms and go to market.
So how nervous are you as like your trucks roll around in a storm like this? Were you nervous last night going, oh my gosh, I hope the guys can get through?
They were all home. I have them
were.
on GPS on my phone. I can see where they're at, all my trucks. And I really try to plan not to put them, our best to keep them out of harm.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's the best course of action.
So tell us about some of the new genetics. What's coming on? What's new, exciting that you're only going to find literally at Waters Garden Center this year?
So we do plants. We have 25 patents. Everyone knows what a patent is. So we've been breeding plants for the last 15 years to make them more accessible, more acceptable into today's urban horticulture, today's smaller yards. We want people to use less water. People love pollinators, but we really want the plants to be sizable for our yards and our lives. And we want them to have less maintenance and be able to weather a snowstorm, a rainstorm, and a heat wave and a cold wave. And that's what we've been looking for in trying to come up with our new plants. And the first one I'd like to introduce to you, I suppose.
I brought too many of them up here.
Yeah.
Texas sage is awesome.
So
I'm excited about these.
As Prescott's getting warmer and warmer, and you wouldn't think so, but I think you only got to 29 degrees last night. It's not very cold, is the Laredo sage. And you'll notice it looks significantly beautiful for winter, right? Spring, early spring, winter. And it's the genetics of the plant.
So put it right up here, Chris, so the folks online can see it too. Put it in the bucket. I brought that just for you.
So a lot of the Texas sages, it's a Texas sage called Laredo that we developed, but they're very bare looking this time of the year.
Chris, take about 3 steps that way.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
A lot of the Texas sage are very bare looking. We're like, well, We want people to enjoy it year round more. So we found this plant, but it had a problem. It couldn't take the overwatering and the extra rainfall. This particular Texas sage, there's many types of Texas sage. Like, what about if we toughened it up? So it'd still be evergreen, but it can take the extra water when it happens. So that's what we did. We toughened it up by putting in a tougher Texas Ranger into it. And we got Laredo. Laredo is where Texas sage come from, but for my brain, it's the best-selling Jeep Cherokee trim level. And so it looks smart because that's actually where they come from, but I'm happy that it's the best-selling trim level of Jeep Cherokee. And that's how you remember it, the most evergreen Texas sage that will live in Arizona in the world now. And it will live in Texas. It'll live in Louisiana. That's how cold, that's how extra water it can take. Don't go out of your way to put it in a basin and flood it. But it's a lot sturdier. So we did that.
What we found is monsoons kill off this plant. The traditional Texas sage, it looked great, and the monsoons would hit, and by September 1, it was dead because it just go. These varieties will take that like a champ. I'm excited about this. I did a video on that one. We're releasing this one.
Oh yes, this one. So that one gets 6 feet tall. Probably in Prescott, it would probably get 5.
Chest high.
Height wise. So this one doesn't look as pretty maybe at this time of the year, but Texas Rangers can get 10 by 10. And that's a bit big for what's really big for today's gardening. Like, wouldn't it be nice if we had one that stayed 3 by 3 or 4 by 4? Well, and it would live. So again, we put the green cloud into it, the most hardy sage of all, and we dwarfed it. And we came up with a 3 by 3 silver Texas sage called Microburst. This can take radical overwatering, radical underwatering, heat, and cold. And it does beautifully when you want a much smaller shrub.
You just want
Microburst. What's that?
You want to keep
keep
this
over
way.
here. So Microburst has been a big hit.
So now explain to them. So we can keep talking plants all day long, but let's peel back the curtain. And how do you develop that? You have mad scientists injecting DNA into these things? Are you cross-pollinating? Are you taking cuttings?
We're cross-pollinating.
Cross-pollinating. You put several, you should knock off, you get like little Q-tips.
Yep.
And you're like
dust and
pollinating,
dust.
And then you come up and you see which one?
You cross-pollinate the different ones. You grow those out. You collect the seed when they pollinate. You grow those out. It takes years. It took us 15 years. Then you grow those out, and you're like, oh, that's different. That's different. What about if I took the pollen from that one to this one? And lo and behold, then you grow those out. And the second generation of the cross-pollinating is where you get the really interesting stuff. And up came Microburst. Up the next one we have is Little Lynn. This is the first 4-foot. It has green leaves. First 4-foot Texas sage in the world that will live from Texas to California to Arizona. And so this only gets 4 by 4. It's a beautiful flower, and it's in flower a lot. So we have 3 beautiful selections of Texas sage. It again has the green cloud put into it, but we're really trying to solve problems and so when you plant it, you know you're going to succeed, you know it's going to live, and you know it's going to maintain a certain height and shape. Yes.
All of those flower?
Yes.
Yeah, a long, crazy long time.
Purple, like this one has a dark purple flower. This one has a lighter purple. This one has like an Easter egg purple flower.
Great plant for yours. So it's full sun, like blistering hot, south side, surrounded by asphalt or dark rock. It's going to thrive. That's where you put that. You put it next to the Russian sage, that purple spiky one. But Russian sage kind of has this mangy look after 3 or 4 years. This one keeps its perfect shape, and you still get that kind of color to it. So
barely have to water it here in Prescott.
And You can only get that from Savano Nursery. If you happen to be friends with Chris and his family,
Yeah,
we
for
can get
instance,
access to it. You're never going to find that at a box store. It's only going to be here. And what I like about Chris, he's scouring the Southwest. He's looking at Albuquerque going, that grows here. Oh my gosh, look how great it is. And I go, if it grows in Albuquerque,
Yep, it's perfect.
it's going to
for
grow
him.
here. So it's the same exact climate.
Right.
And so he's curating things, and he'll give us a few plants. We test them in our gardens. So we're testing before we introduce it to you. And we go, oh, we got a winner. And then we go all in and go, let me show you these Texas sage and why they're so great. Can you go over the mallow one?
Yep.
This one real quick. Do it real quick because we're out of
Yep.
time. I got to give Jim some time. So this I'm excited about. In fact, we're going to make this part of we're going to feature this on Tuesday as part of the native low maintenance collection. So
this is Orange Crush Globe Mallow, which is native to Prescott, to the Prescott Valley, to Arizona, and other states. This can be a huge wildflower. It can be very big. It can be very small. It can look terrible in the summer. It can look okay in the summer.
Yeah.
But it's one of the first things to bloom in your yard. And it's also tortoise. If you have turtles, they like
I did
it
not
too.
know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. We do have quite a few tortoise people.
Right.
Here. It's weird.
But this one stays a lot shorter than normal. It blooms more than normal. And we developed it so you have predictability and size.
Folks on camera.
But Orange Crush has been a real winner. It's the first thing that'll wake up. So if you have small pockets in your yards where you want color, Orange Crush, penstemons, the Angelita daisy down below, Ken, there, the yellow flower. These are all smaller native plants.
Put them right there.
That
They look
will
good together.
just give you pops of small color and keep coming back most year after year. So, but Orange Crush, a small version of a Globe Mallow that we selected and then promoted and patented called Orange Crush Globe Mallow.
So mallows are a great native plant. I mean, low maintenance wildflower. The problem is most of them get tall and leggy and they fall over, especially in the monsoons. They're like drunken sailors. They're just laying down in the yard. This one stays compact, stays upright. It just keeps its form much better than the ones you'll find at, let's say, a box store. Well, you won't find any of these at a box store. No mallows because it's too native. It's too nichey. We're trying to introduce more easy care plants. And then lastly, I got to get you off the stage because these are exciting. Those are like freakishly exciting.
So I just had a thought for an easy care container for the hotter, warmer weather in Prescott for you. This is a slipper plant, and it would reliably fail at around 24 degrees. And in Tucson, we got down to 13 degrees in 2011, and these were all failed. And like, that's a real shame, but it's an easy care, full sun, full shade, part shade, low water container plant that's widely used in Tucson. They were all dead. And then we found one alive, and we took cuttings, and we knew it would take 12 degrees. And I called it Chili Willy. And Chili Willy is a little penguin from the 60s that I used to watch when I was a child in Canadian TV, and a polar bear was always trying to eat him. And here we go. And it's a great container plant. And if it's going to be super cold, you could just put a little bamboo stick in the container, put a blanket over it, and you get it through anything. But you could go away on a cruise for 10 days and come back. It's still there in the summer. That's hard to do. If you want something attractive, this gets a nice orange flower. Hummingbirds like it. But then you want something out the front. And maybe like a Purple Heart also can take a lot of sun, a bit of cold, low water. It would be a great plant just to spill over. And now you could water it once a week max in the summer. And if you missed one, okay, it's okay. And go away in a long weekend or whatever, and not have to get the neighbor kid to come water your plants. And just know it's going to be there. 90% of the time it can just be outside anyway. But so this is called Lionheart Purple Heart. It's our selection and our name of a Purple Heart that's much different and more attractive. And it's been a great addition. So put that out the front. You got the Chili Willy in the back, and I think you have an interesting combination.
These are both full sun plants, shade plant, or
both. They can do both. So you can put it anywhere.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what I would do with this, because it's a borderline plant, okay, because
Yeah.
I test a lot of these things. I would plant that I'm going to plant that plant in a container.
Yep.
And in the winter, because they're not welcome in the house, they're too big. I'll bring it up to the house and I'll just have the pot touch the side of the house.
Yeah.
That alone, your house throws off an amazing amount of heat, keeps plants, those borderline zone 8 to 9 plants, keeps them alive. So I've got some barrel cactus that are magnificent.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be able to winter over like that in a container, but that's my little insider tip for you, just to get a good quality pot that won't break in the winter, won't crack, and then move it underneath the can, under next to the house where it just touches the house. There's enough radiant heat coming off your house, keeps them from freezing. So anyway, way to cheat it. Yep, that goes here. Thank you, Chris Shipley with Savano's Nursery. Awesome plant material.
It's a euphorbia. Yeah, it's a type of succulent. Yeah.
It's related to gopher plant. It grows wild everywhere here, or
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
rainbow ascot euphorbias. If you break it off, it's got a real sappy, thick sap to it, which is probably why it's got so much antifreeze in it. He found one because he's a grower. He's gone, oh, they all died except that one. Why? Okay, and then he takes that and just starts taking cuttings, reproducing, and he finally, after 15 years, you get enough to sell at Waters Garden Center. So anyway, a unique plant. Let's go with Monrovia growers. Oh, perfect. Jim Roop has been our sales rep. He's a local guy, but he reps Monrovia. Monrovia is the Cadillac of all things perennial shrubs and trees. A broad selection of plants. So they've got 2 farms. We're pulling a lot of the conifers kind of stuff from Oregon. Then we got this rough southwestern native-y mix from Visalia, which is middle of by Fresno, that valley area. So we've got a truck from him every week from one of those farms. So Jim's been our rep for, how long have you been doing this? Decades now, right?
Decades.
Decades.
With you since 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
So 22 years, when is that? 24 years just with us.
With Monrovia, close to 40 years.
Oh my gosh. So why did you get into this business? So just share with us, because I think sometimes the younger folks, they don't realize we're even in an industry that's awesome that you should work in, or retired folks, you should come work for us. It's the funnest job ever. It's like Christmas every time your trucks show up. It's like, oh, I've never seen that. That's cool.
I was one of those oddball kids that probably starting in middle school planted the family garden.
Really?
So just from there, and then I got into high school, senior year in high school, working in a local garden center, and just stuck with it and tried to go to college and did that a little bit, but I just like working with plants hands-on.
Really?
So
now, did you get a hort degree or anything? What does it take to be a representative or to rep plants? This is a national company. You happen to get Arizona, lucky you, and you decided to live in Prescott. We actually give Jim keys to the nursery. He just comes in every Sunday, does orders. I said, whatever looks best in the farms, I want that this week, bring that. And so we get preferential treatment, literally, from Jim and his family. Or I feel like, you make me feel like I do.
we work well together.
We do. Yeah, for 24 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And speaking of years, decades, we started in 1926, which means
Awesome.
next year
Oh,
we're going to have our 100-year anniversary.
100 years. Wow.
Yeah. So
Is that going to be in Visalia or Oregon? Where's it going to be at?
Going to be in Oregon.
Okay, we'll
So,
fly in. I'll bring the team up for that. That's
Yep.
worthy of that's worthy.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's going to
Yeah.
be lots of fun.
So why Monrovia? What's special about Monrovia? And why are your plants more beautiful than, let's say, some others?
Well, let me grab a plant
Sure.
here to. Let's see. Let's just do a rose
Sure.
here.
Grace and grits. Is that what
Yeah,
that
it's
is?
a Grace and Grit rose. So
Put it right here in the bucket.
Oh.
That's for you.
the Vanna bucket.
You got it. Yeah. Here, put the flower that way so the folks
Oh,
online
Okay.
are inspired. There you go.
So Monrovia, we were the first to grow plants in containers. You know, going back 100 years ago, a little after, most stuff was B&B, grown in the ground, dug up, and so we started growing plants in the container roughly about 100 years ago. They used to be in metal containers. Used to put them on trains and ship them off. So
They were grown in coffee cans, literally. And then we had coffee can cutters. They had a special long handled tool. You'd cut the can off,
yeah,
peel it off. You trying to cut yourself and then plant the plant.
yeah, it was kind
Literally.
of kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but,
I still have a can cutter in the shed.
I remember
Literally.
those too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things have progressed. You know, now we're in the safer plastic cans. Anyway, so yeah, part of our secret is, you know, our plants are what we call a retail quality grade. So they're fuller. They're not going to be as tall. A landscape grade might be something that may be taller, but it's leggy with these leggy branches. It doesn't look full. So that's part of what we do. From a liner stage, when they're small, we go through and we prune, even in a liner stage. And then once that gets moved up to a gallon stage, we prune it again. So just more branching makes it look fuller. And if it goes up into a 5 gallon, it gets pruned again. And so it just makes for a nice full plant like this. Now, much like ice, what you see on top is just, the beginning of what, makes for a good plant. It's what's below, what's in the soil. Like an iceberg, you got the top and you got this big mass below that it makes for a healthy iceberg. But so we use time release fertilizers in our mixes that last for a year. We have mycorrhizae, which is a beneficial fungi, which is found in all soils, except when they go through, build something, they grate all that off and sterilize the soil, basically. So we use like 21 different species of mycorrhizae, and we ship all over the country. So it's just kind of geared to, no matter where we ship, there's going to be at least a couple of those, 2 or 3 of those mycorrhizae that are for your climate where we ship to in the United States.
So we'll explain this a little bit more. He's using this like everyone knows what it is. Mycorrhizal, they actually are bacteria that they attach themselves to the roots of plants and they extend the roots out. There's a symbiotic thing between this. They're super beneficial, even more beneficial than worms in the soil. But if you have that in the soil, so all of our plants, we inject mycorrhizals throughout all of our plants. Our tomatoes, everything gets it. Because we know you're probably dealing with dead soil, or you have very little of this left. So we're trying to charge your soil as you plant that tree or that shrub or that rose, so that now it will, if you put a little bit of organics in the soil when you're planting that, it will feed off of that, off the organics, and it will extend. You get a stronger root structure on the plants. That's why, don't tell my competitors, our plants live and theirs don't. There's reasons for that. We're noted as a place where our plants thrive. And there's some insider tips. That's one of them, one of several. But he's putting that in the soil itself. So every Monrovia plant gets that automatically.
Right. That
when you
spreads
plant
out
it.
into your soil.
Right. If you're digging in a compost pile, you'll see this white kind of powdery substance feeding off the potting soils and the organics. Those are mycorrhizals. You've seen it in your yard, you just didn't realize what it was. You thought, oh, something's going on. No, when I find that, I spread it around the garden. I go, oh, spread over here. I just spread it out. Anyway,
And I can vouch for the the time release fertilizer, because I have a habit of sometimes bringing plants home, and I don't have a home for them at my home, and they just sit there for like a year, much to my wife's dismay. It's like she said, no, unless you have a hole dug, you can't bring a plant home anymore. So I pretty much, I've had plants just sit in the container on the side there for a year, and they still look green and lush. And so that time release fertilizer really does work, and it lasts for a year with our plants. So.
Why Grace and Grit? Because we're famous for roses. We'll sell thousands of them, hundreds and hundreds of varieties. This is one of my favorites as far as consistent bloom, long lasting, easy, doesn't get aphids, doesn't get mildews. It's just easier to care for. Why is that? How can you do that to a rose?
Well, the Grace and Grit is what we call a landscape type rose. So really what a landscape rose is I don't like to even sell them as roses sometimes. I just like to sell them as a flowering shrub.
Yeah.
Because that's really what they are. When you say rose, a lot of times people think of, like Ken said, you think of aphid, you think of fungus, you think of special pruning, et cetera, et cetera. But a landscape rose like Grace and Grit, or
Carpets,
the
yeah.
flower carpet, this one's white, and this is more of a low spreader. This is a shrub. They're very easy to care for. No special pruning. When you want to prune them, you can just take head shears to them. It doesn't matter how you prune them. The new growth will sometimes get aphids the first growth in the spring, but as soon as that leaf hardens up, you never see aphids again for the rest of the year. Very disease resistant, very little black spot and fungus, things like that. Continuous blooming. I have a couple of the Grace and Grits in my yard here in Prescott, a red and a yellow, and they just keep blooming.
Pulsating waves of color.
Yeah, and I don't even deadhead them in the summer generally. But if you want to go ahead and deadhead them, you will increase bloom that way. But I don't, they keep blooming all through the summer. And when they're not in bloom, they have a really nice foliage to them because it doesn't get that disease and stuff like that. They can take full sun here. They can take a little bit of filtered shade, either way. But they come in the red. There's a really pretty two-tone one called bicolor, yellow, white. They get maybe 3 to 4 feet tall. They're actually great container roses as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
absolutely.
just a great addition to
So
roses.
shrub roses or landscape roses, there's no special graft. So they're grown on their own rootstock. So they're rooting out the actual cutting. And so whereas a hybrid tea or a floribunda, these are those long stemmed roses, there's a graft they take off. They graft it onto a separate rootstock. And so they're bigger flowers. They're the fragrant flowers, but they're kind of wimpy sometimes. So they can be diseased. They can have, they're harder. They're not, I don't want to put them down because I will sell hundreds of them. But the shrub roses are just easy to care for. If you haven't ever tried them, they're very much worthy. Magnolias. Yeah, sure. Here. Saucer magnolia.
So we're going to talk about
Star.
something kind of, I think, fun, a little more unique. Depending where you're from in the country, you may be familiar with magnolias.
I'm going to help you.
These are
on the ground. I'm going to put this right here.
These are a magnolia, but they're
There.
deciduous magnolia. So they're not like the southern evergreen magnolia trees, but they're the same genus, same plant, magnolias. So I have one at my house. It's a shrub form like this. I've had it about 3 years now, and I was just out there the other day. I had like 40 buds on there.
Yeah, it's going to be a good magnolia.
When this
year.
thing blooms, it's just
Yeah.
it's just a massive color
Mine's the
when
same
it
way.
blooms. So here we have one that's a taller, more of a tree form. And the buds, they hold up well. They set the buds early in the winter.
Flowers like this big.
Yeah.
That big.
But the buds hold up in the cold. The cold doesn't kill them off here. It doesn't get cold enough for that. But yeah, there was one blooming here a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was a bloom about that big.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was spectacular. So yeah, they can take full sun or filtered shade, the trees. If you have deer, you might protect them from deer, maybe I would say. But yeah, just a fun plant. You want something that your neighbors will say, that is cool.
Yeah.
Where did you get that? What is it? It's when
Magnolia.
these deciduous magnolias bloom.
There's two kinds of magnolias, basically. There's the southern magnolia, the evergreen variety. And the southern one you see in Texas, the South, Georgia, and those areas, it doesn't grow here. It gets too cold and it kills off the tops. They developed an Alta, a dwarfed one, that's super cold hardy. I've got 2 at my house. It's gone down below 0, still thrived. It's a traditional evergreen leaf. It's a little bit smaller. Mine are maybe 10 years old. They're probably 15 feet tall. Nice, thick, full, glossy, like magnolia color. Basically, it just comes in white. It's fragrant. It's big white flower. And then you've got the deciduous varieties. That is, they lose their leaves in the winter. I think the deciduous varieties there's more color, and they're hardier. They're tougher.
Yeah.
They'll take any amount of cold we throw at them, and they're going to come through like a champ, no questions. But the deciduous ones will come in pinks, reds, whites, purple, a lot of different colors. And we're getting them all from Monrovia growers. Now, we're out of time, so one more. What I would like you to do, could you do, could you mention that that's a new lilac? This one here? It's from you.
Oh.
Could you tell us this? This is related to bloomerang,
Right.
but it's a brand new one. for
one do we
my
have?
benefit, right?
Little darling.
Little darling. It's one of the new lilacs that stays shorter, repeat blooms. How'd you come up with little darling? And it's
Well,
such a better name than
it's actually
bicolor
not our
rose.
name, but
Oh,
you
okay.
know, we are one of the grow. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Gotcha.
you can't go wrong with the name, right?
Yeah,
Little darling.
it's perfect.
And it describes it perfectly well because it's more of a smaller lilac in that probably 2.5, maybe 3 foot range. Kind
Just
of
like
nice
this.
pinkish flowers with a little blue, a little two-tone to it, still fragrant, and it does repeat bloom as well.
That color. There you go. Does it show up okay?
And it's a great, being smaller, it also makes for a great container plant.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, just some of these new smaller lilacs that are out now, I think they're great for.
A true dwarf. Most lilacs get 10, 12 feet. I mean, they're gigantic, big flowers, fragrance like you've never seen. So nothing's like a lilac. And they grow really well here. They adapt. They just love growing at elevation.
Yeah, they grow easy here.
But they're too big to have on the side patio. They're too big to have. I mean, they're just too big for a lot of spaces. You want those big ones out towards the property line, softening up the fences, that kind of stuff. This one is right off my patio.
Yeah.
It gets about hip high, gets a little bit wider than taller, and just loads up with flowers. Same fragrance, a little bit smaller flower, but you can see it makes up for it in just sheer quantity. The whole thing will be covered in blooms. Here, next warm day, it's going to be covered. And then it takes a little break. It's just a cute little shrub. And then when the monsoons start, it starts to bud up again, and it does it all over again. And then in the fall, it's got the most beautiful aspen gold color to it. It just kind of has all the seasons. It's spring, summer, fall.
You know, it's just a great foundation plant where you can bring it into your patio, to your living area. That's a nice thing about a lot of these new smaller plants that are coming out now. And when it does bloom, it's one of the earlier things to bloom. Get a warm day. It can be a great pollinator plant too. The bees will come to this because it's, you know, blooming. So it's really important to have early spring plants that are blooming in the late winter, early spring, when there's not a lot out there for the bees that are starting to come out in the warmth. So this makes a great pollinator plant as well.
Absolutely. Magical. And this is a beautiful plant. Well done. Why don't you bring over, and I'll give them a lesson. Why don't you give me those 2 forsythias, just because I want them to know why you're shopping at Waters Garden Center. Here's a quick lesson. So you get this. Can you see the difference between these two? These are both Monrovia plants. This is magical gold forsythia. It's a traditional forsythia. It gets big. It gets like this, like a lilac size. But this one they've developed has a bigger flower, more flowers than your traditional. This is like a traditional. This is what you'll find at Home Depot. This is what you find at Waters Garden Center. It is a better grade, by far a better plant, because it's brighter, bigger, better. This one I'm excited about because they dwarfed it. It's the same lilac your grandparents grew, but now it only gets this big instead of this big. So now you can grow it in containers. This would go with little darling, lilacs. And then if you're planting these, this is more of a traditional flower, but I'm just excited to see it because I've never seen a dwarf variety. I don't know how you guys do this, but that's amazing to have a dwarfed forsythia. This one always blooms first, and then you get the lilacs blooming. After that, you get the roses blooming. After that, you get the Roses Sharons, then the crepe myrtles, then the smoke bush. We're in the perfect climate to have this pulsate. You can have color almost year round. You literally can have color year round.
We got the hellebores for
hellebores, the camellias have been in bloom for a month. So maybe the end of December, first part of January, there's no bloom. But every other week, you can have something colorful in the yard.
Now, what about pruning these?
There's no pruning dwarfs. Maybe give it a haircut. So there's low care. So my lilac, the dwarf lilac, I would see this would be the same. I think it gets a wild bird every once in a while. I'll just cut that off, and that's all I do. So it just basically it keeps its shape to it. Whereas the tall ones, you gotta have to keep them in check sometimes.
But just one thing I want to point out is sometimes people will prune a forsythia at the wrong time of year.
Gotcha.
Because they tend to bloom on last year's wood. So best time to prune a to keep it in shape or size of forsythia, especially the taller ones, is after they bloom is when you prune it.
Right.
You get that new growth that comes out. That's going to be your flowers. So, you know, sometimes I've had people come in and say, well, I didn't get many blooms. And it's,
Yeah.
oh, when did you prune it? Oh, I pruned it in September. Well, it didn't really put out any new growth after that much. So they kind of limited their flowers. So
Your spring blooming things, bloom them right, cut them back or shape them right after they're done blooming. Lilacs, forsythia, quince. Whereas summer blooming things, the crepe myrtles, roses Sharons, that kind of stuff, smoke bush, you prune those midwinter. The problem is if you've got a maintenance guy coming in, the mow and blow guys are just kind of cleaning things up, they'll cut everything all at once because their crew's here now. They're trying to be efficient with the crews, and they prune the lilacs, and all of a sudden, you watch this in your neighborhood, you'll see some lilac bushes, they only bloom off the sides. That's because they pruned it back, cleaned it up, and they pruned all the flowers off. You planted the lilacs, the forsythias for the blooms. You prune them right after they're done blooming. Seems kind of awkward, but that's when you do it.
that's when you do it.
Jim Roop with
Right.
Monrovia Growers. Thank you,
you.
Jim.
Thank
You
you.
guys are awesome. So with that, I'll give one other. This is how you know it's spring right here. When the peonies start to come up, there is no holding back spring. Now these are perennials. They hibernate underground, and now they start coming up. So this is an Ito peony. We've grafted a traditional English peony onto a tree peony root. And so now you get a shrub type of peony that's on steroids. Literally this thing will literally get up 3 times the size of a normal peony, about this wide. And then the flowers are this big, whereas normal peonies are smaller. And you get the more fragrance, more colored kind of stuff. So unfortunately, the guy that grew this, he was supposed to be here. The storm kept a couple of folks at bay. So for my Isley nursery, if you're watching this is for you. Thank you. This is a Ito, I-T-O-H, Ito peony. These, if you're collecting peonies, this is one you want to have in your collection because of the size and the girth and the fragrance and the colors. You just can't find them anywhere else. You also want to buy your peonies while they're like this. Don't wait until they're, well, I won't have them. Once they come up and they're in bloom, they're like candy. Every one that goes into bloom goes on a cart. Like the second it opens, it goes on a cart and goes home. You really want to grab these while the selection is good. And you want to plant them in the ground before they start growing and start blooming, because they'll go into transplant shock. When they're in bloom, they're more sensitive. You can put them in the ground now. They just wake up and go, I don't know what just happened, but I'm in this new garden. I think I'll just grow here, and they bloom better. The insider tip that I'll give you with peonies, personal experience, because I've killed off several, they don't like heavy clay soil. So if you're out in that valley, the Granvilles and the Viewpoints and those new communities out in the valleys, they got that heavy, thick caliche layer. It doesn't perk. These guys will live. It's the longest lived perennial there is. It'll live 50 years easy if it's in the ground happy. If it sits in soggy wet, it's got a real fleshy root to it, it tends to rot. So for me, I killed off a couple of them because I put them in the ground, and it didn't, no matter how I amended it, I couldn't get it to drain fast enough. So I put this plant in a big pot. It's about this big around, about that deep. And it's been in there for years. And it is now growing. It's now up this tall, loaded with buds. You can see the flower buds. It's like, so it's a tease. Just going, it's going to be so exciting. It's going to be a good peony year. That's what peonies do for you. But the insider tip is, what is an Ito compared to English? Where do you plant them? And then when do you buy them? It's now. So I'll have peonies in May. I'll have peonies in June. I'll have 1 or 2 colors. Now I've got over a dozen. So if you're shopping, now is the time. So, okay. With that, are we doing okay? Questions? You doing okay? Was that worthwhile or not worthwhile or just different? Different? Okay, good. Yeah. In the back, what you got? You can't order. So I had a peony order like a month ago, a pre-order So what we're trying to do now is we have this crop come in, and as soon as it warms up, I'll literally have 1,000 customers a day. It'll be just waves of people. The plants are gone like in a day. They're just out. So I'm giving my core customers, you all, the ability to jump in front of the line and just put your name on it before it even gets here. You can have access to it. What I'm trying to do with that is only the rare or the super limited varieties I'm giving access. We call it pre-orders or plant drops, or whatever you want to call it. It's a new thing. So I did have a plant drop about a month ago of peonies, yep. And I think we're picking those things up, I think next week. So they're just starting to, they're en route now. And then we'll send you an email going, hey, your peonies here. Right now we're doing it with tomatoes. I've got my favorite tomato, my favorite peppers that I grow. I'm a salsa grower. They're in the greenhouses right now. They're up about this tall. I'm letting folks pay for that or make sure they get there, so I have it waiting for them when they show up. So I'll make sure you get a link to that. For that, was Mackenzie still here, or who do I have? Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. I'll hang out as long as you want. Answer questions. Come up and take a look. My growers are here for the day. Ask them whatever you want. They can go deep onto some of these plants. So before I let you go, though, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wasn't sure which direction it was going to go. Glad you enjoyed it. I'll let you clap. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it. That's good. All right.